Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, HubSpot Nation. It is time for, it's probably a special edition every week, for being honest, Rob. Let's build GTM with the mayor of Inbound, Rob Jones. Happy Friday, April 18th, 2025.
Yeah, happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
Not going to let you slither out of that one. How's it been so far?
It's been good. It's been good. Just finished a nice spaghetti lunch. And much fanfare this morning. I had a couple of great shows to start the day. Yeah, it's been going well.
And you said you're 18 today, right?
Oh, just turned 19, actually. Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
love it. And 40, it's Good Friday,
43. And so much learned from my 42nd year. There is a post coming, some kind of content coming about how I feel like I've learned the answers to life, everything, life, the universe, and everything, the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah, shout out Douglas Adams.
Yeah,
one of the best intros to a book ever, by the way, if you haven't read it.
So, and I'll be honest, man, I'm not being facetious when I say that. Maybe this week was a little bit too much, like one of those moments where I'm like, oh my God, I'm learning too much. Can't possibly do it all, my friend. So here we are, one of those things. When I presented to you earlier in the week, I said, let's use Friday to break down the GTM of HubSpot Spring Spotlight. And do you remember your response?
If it was earlier in the week and not earlier today, there's a good chance no. My response was, that's a lot of stuff to do. How much time do we have? You mentioned a marathon. And then kind of comparing it, I think, with last year, it's like there's so much that there could be to be reviewed. That I don't know how my English or grammar or syntax was on that, but there's just an insane amount of stuff that we could review. So,
right. And there was some lack of memory in there too, like what even happened last year, because it was radically different. And it was very specific to like a landing page and the LinkedIn echo chamber, basically. So you're like, was there any posts you could share? Like, how could you prep me for this episode, Chris? And I shared, there's a video, from Yamini. But then I said, maybe I'll go and find some other stuff, right? Well, I didn't do that. Instead, I went over to Brother Claude here.
Solid.
And I said, the setup, we want to talk about this. Can you research any online content from the 2024 Spotlight and the 2025 Spotlight, especially on the HubSpot website and LinkedIn? It does some homework. This is with research turned on, by the way. And he comes back with, in a matter of less than 60 seconds, I think, my research reveals a significant evolution in HubSpot's go-to-market strategy from 2024 to 2025. In 2024, Spotlight was primarily a digital product showcase with supporting virtual events, while 2025 marks a major expansion into premium in-person experiences, particularly with the exclusive NYC VIP event at the Glass House. This shift represents a strategic move toward more immersive, high-touch engagement with key audiences while maintaining digital accessibility.
Translation.
We need one. Good job, HubSpot.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms.
It first of all, it resonated like for me. Like I'll be honest, when I was leading up to the event, I was having a very hard time figuring out where it was. because it was a VIP event, it wasn't open there. It was invite only. So they didn't have anything on the website directly. I found some some community threads in places that I hadn't seen before. I think the spot, there's a community that I learned about that they had some threads on there. But my main point in showing this is like, it's kind of recaps and research into this stuff. Like, it would have been a little bit of work for us, to put this together. And now we get to spend the time doing the human presentation and commentary of this. Well, Claude was super awesome. And I gave it a 1 star already, but he crushed this. So, and for somebody like yourself who, not surprisingly, didn't remember, what happened last year, right? Because it was very what happened, what we're not seeing here is there was a buildup, right? And they're in this mode of, he actually broke it down here. A primary focus on general SMB audience, limited segmentation of messaging last year, equal emphasis across audience levels, and content strategy difference. 2024 was product focused content that highlighted features and capabilities, how to use new tools, siloed by product area, and a focus on tactical implementation. Right? So basically there was the LinkedIn community was getting ready for this big bang, spring spotlight. They're making a big deal about it. They're going to launch some stuff. And it was just a collection of updates that anybody in the know already knew about. And there was some misaligned expectations. So there was some distress in the LinkedIn echo chamber about being bamboozled.
It's a great word.
Yeah. So this year, we see solutions-focused content that demonstrates business outcomes, experiential content that shows transformation possibilities, integrated content strategy, connecting multiple product areas, and a focus on strategic impact and cross-team collaboration. So I'm not sure who gets the good job here. Obviously,
I'll take it.
The marketing department, whoever is in charge, Claude thinks you did a great job. I mean, it matched my feeling, especially in comparison to last year, about what I felt, right? And a lot of that was like we'd been through it last year, so we kind of knew if updates every day, there's nothing brand new dropping. Even though they did drop 30 updates that one day, a bunch of agents and stuff. So all around, they crushed it this year.
Yeah. The biggest thing that stood out to me, we could make sense of this, is they talked about digital and support and all that, but really the from tactical product feature updates to strategic, like how to leverage them for business impact. So you could say that's what they should have been doing all along. I just think that with all the updates, with all the features, with all of that, it took a minute and is still taking time to figure out, great, now, what do I do with it now? How would how am I supposed to implement this across the entirety of the platform? So not just hub specific from a, marketing hub update, but that also is really well in line with their kind of AI first approach and taking unstructured data and making it structured. I don't think Breeze or a Copilot cares where or which hub the data is coming from. That's kind of the point. And so being able to leverage that for actual impact rather than just, how-to videos or tactical implementation is good. It's maturing. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the actual, it coincides well with the timeline of all of the updates and all of the new functionality and all of the progress they've made as a CRM.
What have you been outside of HubSpot? Have you heard what has been your perception of how the community has received, Spotlight?
Perception of how it was received is, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. That was 1 week ago today, or on the 10th, whenever it was. I mean, there's
8 days
almost there's some delay in response and delay in feedback just because it can't. I mean, from Easter and Good Friday and holidays, and we had a QBR today, all of that stuff. So I haven't noticed anything unsettling or anything weird or anything that's like. It still seems to be a lot of asking for that, and they're delivering. Like, Breeze sounds great, but here's where, we could use a little help in understanding. Here's where it needs to improve. And that's not exclusive to the kickoff or the spotlight or any of that. That seems like the feedback that they've not only that I've been hearing and seeing, but also questions they've been addressing directly. Like John Dick, for example, on how to, like specific use cases for Breeze and how HubSpot themselves has used it in their, how they do things. So it's not, there's this concept of like overreaction Monday, right? During the NFL season of like, let's immediately after, have a hot take or an opinion. I don't think B2B tech, this community does the same thing to the extent. And I don't think it's needed. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yet.
More than that is like is it Dashworks acquisition? Yeah. So, I mean, that's another thing too, that's kind of delayed or gotten in the way in a very positive way of reacting to some of the updates from the spotlight.
Right. Well, I think to your point, it's hard to take a minute to think about any of the updates, like no matter how big or small, because they just are relentless. I do think the team, and it's okay to say you're busy, dude. Like, you're chief evangelist now. You got other stuff going on. It's okay. That's kind of the point, though, right? Like, we're trying to reach, people who are not in HubSpot all day, every day. They're not hanging out on LinkedIn. They're not in Sprocketeer. They've got other jobs to do. And that's a good bar, I think, of like talking to more people to see like how effective is it, and getting to the point of like, can they actually do anything differently from their perspective to actually reach, that group of people? Yeah.
Well, what you don't want is exactly what I was mentioning with the NFL. It's like the overreaction Monday concept, or the boy who cried wolf, right? And it's not anything bad. It's just like, hey, here's that example specifically. I don't know the timeline because there's so much stuff that's going on, but like if the spotlight was 4/10, when did Dashworks happen? Immediately after that?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Right. So
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right. And I wasn't there. I don't have access to information or like what was shared or any of that, but that's another that's another massive update that will have, implications. It will help with a lot of the stuff they're already doing. And so the lack of response or reaction is taking a minute for the 2024 to 2025, right? From tactical to strategic, to step out and say like today, 1 day after, 2 days after, 8 days after the spotlight, you have to drop everything that you're doing and implement this right now because it's 100% figured out and it will work for every single person. It's just not the truth. And so there's this, I don't know what to call it, like latency or like almost planned delay from 2024 to 2025. They needed that time. The community needed that time to figure out like what else was going to happen to finally, to bridge the gap of something that would be really helpful tactically, or that's kind of for one hub or for one department or for one team. We've done a lot of that. We figured it out. Our partners, communities help. The product is now to a place where if you're only, pigeonholing yourself into thinking about it in terms of per hub or per product or per feature, you're kind of missing the point, right? There's different things that you can implement strategically now with an understanding and with some of the functionality that's come out, which is awesome. I mean, talk about, let's build go to market. That's looking at kind of their approach is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I've talked about that quite a bit, like online and offline, about this concept of not only knowing your audiences, like each layer of the audience, right? If you can't access the end users themselves, like how does the message change, or how does the strategy change if you want to give us as partners, or like the super fans, reason to share. Uh, um, and they did, first of all, because of last year, there wouldn't have been any way, it would have been very hard to create the kind of reaction that happened last year. Like we're all like learned our lesson, right? Like how ridiculous it was of us, honestly, to expect some kind of big product update while they were doing big product updates, like leading up to the event. It was Content Hub. It was, service. It was Customer Success Workspace, right? They had just launched those. And then all they did at the event, that's where, like at that point, without these events, like 1% of the ecosystem might know about these things, right? And we can only do so much. That's where I started appreciating a lot, because the one thing we wanted them to see, we needed to see from HubSpot, was more effort outside of inbound to like communicate these updates, right? So it was exciting to see them start that last year, and now lean in more this year. It looks like they learned a lot, and they just did a great job.
That's a whole other, I feel like, topic track. Is it's not that they aren't communicating updates. It's just like to whom, how frequently, almost figuring out the balance of when to communicate. How, like the How I Met Your Mother, one of my favorite shows ever. Like, give us a rating 1 through 10 of like how significant this is, because they are doing so much. I mean, they could send 500 emails a day about things that have changed or happened, but the more of the community focus, the pros focus, the admin focus, the partners solutions app partner focus should be translating updates and guidance on the strategic component of how to use these to people that are not within the ecosystem at all. Right? You said echo chamber, which is kind of a scary word, but it can turn into that. I mean, your feed, LinkedIn, like places that you frequent, watering holes, if you will, can turn into that. And so how do you create enough momentum or noise or buzz or hype, whatever word you want to choose there, so that other people that are not in the ecosystem or employed by, what I mean? How do you create magnetism? And I think they've done a much better job of that.
Yeah. And there's been a little bit of like, so the challenging part is always like, no matter what your new go-to-market is or what you have to shift into, is like teaching your audience that there's new ways to access the information. That's where they've been making updates to the product updates page themselves. We've gotten weekly emails have started now. Even Kyle Jepsen has continued to evolve like his communication, strategy of showing up not only just for videos once a day, but the admin hug and the weekly Mondays with Max. I know he's got a scheduled event to go over all these updates coming up soon. So it's good to see them progress. But this is where for us, and why I said, like, he's Claude's the co-host of this show today, at least, because he's doing work, and he's doing work that we need to ask him to do, right? Like, this is where the responsibility, I'll just say, if you're gonna say you want to keep up with HubSpot, or you want to get the most out of HubSpot, and you're like, there's some responsibility that you don't just get to sit back and be spoon-fed all the information, right? But if you don't know exactly how to research it now, and you don't know all the different channels, right, it gets overwhelming, very quickly, and you're not sure whose take to trust, because very little of it is actually coming straight from HubSpot.
And it could have changed, you know, in the course of 3-4 days, a week. You know, I mean, that's the hardest part, is that iteration is more important than perfection. And if you're getting 1% better every day, it compounds. But you have to be current. I mean, that's the whole point of like Let's Build and all of this. And why we do these lives is that it needs to be kind of reported on as a media outlet, because there is so much. The other part that I don't really, you've mentioned Kyle Jepson and your shows and like all of that. Who is that intended to update or to make aware, right? Like the community, the ecosystem partners, the people that are implementing it. But it doesn't, yeah, maybe this is biased because I'm close to it, and you know, which is fine. But like, would you say that's more for prospective people, like prospects, potential future customers, or the ecosystem in terms of like enablement or awareness? And it feels like a lot of it is for the community.
Yeah.
And I would just say the same people that are receiving all the updates and receiving kind of the guidance and support and video content and what, you know, whatever else it is, who are they going to be able to deploy that for if there's not more people coming to the party and joining, you know, like raising a hand or having questions about how they can have business impact? They don't care. A customer would just want, you know, friction reduction, or would want to make more money, or list out whatever it is. So I think they still need to go broader, right? Like that's part of how I see myself helping, if at all, is like getting more people to the, you know, to come join the party.
Right. So is it them getting broader or us getting broader? Because that's my point. Like, I think shows like this and Kyle, all the Kyle stuff, like we are empowering the ecosystem to definitely stay up to date, but also have conversations to give them language to then, you know, share the message, right? That's where, from HubSpot's perspective, there are so many applications and verticals, and like they can barely keep up with the product updates themselves, right?
Yeah.
And all the enablement that they used to be able to achieve. Like in 2020, everything changed when there was custom objects, and now they're going hard on CMS Hub, and then Ops Hub comes out, and then Commerce Hub. It doesn't take much to look at the Academy and see that they could not keep up with that. When it was just marketing mode, they were all over it. Like they like invented inbound. So naturally that was the place to go to learn about inbound and all of its forms, right? As soon as we expanded in a customer platform, they expanded the product team to be able to compete, you know, and get to that enterprise level parity, you know, with Salesforce. And they would have had to invest similarly in the enablement, you know, team behind it. And they, you know, understandably, but somewhat frustrating to some of us out there that were just used to the old way at the end of the day. But it's very hard internally to make the case to make the same kind of investment, you know, and that's where I think I might have said before, I'd be super interested to see how intentional they were in decision making as it relates to, well, we just have to count on this and this and this to come from the community. And they've done such a good job of building that community since 2006. Yeah. That the community has stepped up in huge ways.
Yeah, all that's super interesting to me because, well, a lot of reasons, right? It's just like, where are the recommendations coming from, right? Like one of the things I think they do unbelievably well, and you would probably challenge me on this, which is fine, but is like the iteration of their product, the suite, all of this, you know, we kind of both know the lore and history of how they started and when. You know, it's a marketing automation platform, big changes, you know, non-compete with Salesforce in 2019, 2020. So we know all of that, which is important for other people that might not know it, of why is there a need for this in the first place? Oh, you don't know that they are still viewed as a marketing automation platform and not a full suite CRM for scaling company. You know, that's part of it, is that people just don't know. Once you're established as a market leader for a certain amount of time, changing and rebranding and going up market is difficult, is it not? So they have 15 years of that, stigma, if you will, quote unquote, of it's a marketing automation platform to it's the best marketing automation platform you could buy, right? To, oh, they're dabbling in CRM. That's cute. Like, they're not going to be Dynamics or Salesforce. That was 2 or 3 years ago, dude.
Yeah.
That's the part of proximity that almost creates friction to bring other people in, is that you live this every day and you go live with it 3 or 4 times a day and you talk to other people that are ingrained in it. But most of the known universe is not, or doesn't understand some of the context and need for changes. But they've done that based on the customer. Like, all their, everybody has drawbacks, and should they have done this? Should they have done something else? Whatever, who cares? But you almost can't deny, or you can't argue that a lot of the stuff that they've done to enhance the product is customer inspired. It is, oh, we heard you about this thing, we changed it, right? So if you know nothing else about HubSpot, from 2006 to today, you should know that they are hell bent on ruthlessly solving for the customer, no matter what, almost to an uncomfortable level because of all of the updates, right? You just said it can become overwhelming and noise.
Yeah. Well, also, like, that's where, when we think about what their customer base is, 80% SaaS, like, there's a lot of people trying to sell HubSpot and service HubSpot that are not in SaaS. And all of these different layers come into play. And no, you're right, because that community was built on inbound and as a marketing automation platform. So sometimes it's actually worse the longer you've been in the HubSpot ecosystem on how you present HubSpot to other people. Like, you're right. I've had to endure that this week of somebody who I very much need to not think about HubSpot in this way still says things like, it's a marketing automation platform. And the people around me are like, yeah, we saw your eye twitching, like, when you heard that. It's like, exactly, like, how detrimental is that? And we talk about common language, but it's also, if you're a partner and you're trying to help people, there are immediate flags like that. Like, if you hear somebody refer to HubSpot in that way, it tells you so much about what they're not paying attention to. And it doesn't mean you say, like, you just shut them down immediately and, like, what the hell are you talking about? It's a customer platform, blah, blah, blah. It just understands that they're still in marketing and maybe sales and marketing mode with how they think about HubSpot. So they're not thinking about Commerce Hub. They're not thinking about Content Hub, probably not touching Service Hub. Maybe they know a little bit about sales, but probably definitely not quoting.
You haven't even mentioned Ops Hub. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I get.
Yeah, exactly. Integrations, apps, all that stuff. So it's the challenge, but that's why we show up, and that's where we need that kind of news presence, like the level of information that has trouble getting out, just because like, that community that they're reliant on, our community, to disseminate the information. Because something else I learned last year, I used to get real frustrated seeing, the HubSpot LinkedIn company page and HubSpot YouTube. Every time I get a notification, it was marketing, 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 marketing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a customer platform. How are we ever going to teach anybody that it's more than Marketing Hub? And then I went on to Reddit and I'm like, oh, people still don't know how to do marketing. Okay. they got to serve that audience still. Right. And that, like you said, the ruthlessly, like, target audience. It's like, that's where the product doesn't match.
It's not that it doesn't match. It's the whole, like, and what else concept. So in the same way that they have evolved and grown and now are a customer platform that can do, basically anything, within, it's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Well, if this is what you need, we either have it built in natively at this point, or we have an integration partner that can help take care of, more so today, obviously, than yesterday, a year ago, 10 years ago. But even within the ecosystem, think about how many partners there were versus there are now, and think about what they specialized in. So the bulk, I mean, if you don't say marketing, then I would say you're wrong. They also, those are customers of theirs too. So yes, they have to still know and talk to their audience, where it's like probably a bulk of the things that would be relevant to those people are marketing centric or marketing hub centric, with marketing agencies that do a lot of that. There's tons of those. And so I think that's part of it. At the same time, it would be how those partners and people in the ecosystem identified themselves. And that's what they're doing for their customers. The whole to and through concept has always been very confusing to me. I mean, we have, 3 or 4 different definitions of partner. We're Rev partners. We have partners. We're also partners. So that the comms and the linguistics, I think, is what you're talking about, like standardization of kind of the terms, what to call it. But even then, you would be able to. It was like my master's comment, last week, like the champions dinner, blah blah blah. Within a couple seconds of listening to somebody, I think that may be why you're irritated. Is that like for customers, prospects, for somebody that's like, hey, can you take a look and see if if you can help with this? They might refer to it as a marketing automation platform, and you'd be totally fine with it. You'd be like, yeah, I mean, and by the way, and it can also do everything else, but that's just a reflection of their language choice. But for somebody like maybe George, Nico, Clement, whoever's in the ecosystem, that's almost like a hand slap moment of how are you going to help even the wider audience understand that it's not just that. It's not just this, what it was started to do for kind of inbound marketing and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough. And that's one of my flaws. Like, even if you want it to be using, like, even if the role in your organization is still for it to be a marketing automation platform, and that's like, I get it, the focus, like it's important. But to suggest, I think the thing where most people kid themselves is that we can shield the rest of the platform, like, from people. And that's where HubSpot is not going to let you do that. Like, it's all over the navigation. You see words like invoices and subscriptions. And then if you don't address it, now when support is happening, we've got 2 different subscription types to think about, like one for marketing emails and one for like cash money.
Yeah.
And if you get that wrong, that's a huge difference, right? And that's where people like use the platform. Like, so what I always say is, like, no matter how you sell it, it's being delivered as a customer platform. Like, you can't avoid it. Like, all the words, sales and service, and now all those things are real easy to see on the nav. I'm sorry, everybody. We can't just get rid of huge chunks of the nav just because your people don't want to see it. That's sorry. You have the responsibility to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
Because, and that's where what would be nice, and this is forever the challenge of marketing. My favorite definition of it is marketing is any 2-way communication between the business and its audience and its customers. Guess what? That's full life cycle. That's sales. That's service. That's success. Like, so if we had that definition of marketing and you call it a marketing automation platform, I'm much cooler with it than I am, like, otherwise, where it's like, oh, marketing, just go over here, do some PDFs, send out some email blasts, do some social posts. Like, we're good. But let's bring our, let's see what the community's saying about this spotlight, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So, and not to, just to make sure it's not all like sunshines and rainbows and there's learning curve for everybody here. I first tried this on the previous chat and it kept erroring on me, but I wasn't sure why. So I started a new chat. So just want to make sure I'm transparent about, how easy it is to work with AI sometimes at this point. But just like in HubSpot, you might get some errors that, oh, you refresh the page and then the error is gone. Happening everywhere right now. So I asked, what are people saying on LinkedIn? And it went a little broader than LinkedIn here. Kind of to your point, like from the top, Andy Petrie set the tone for these conversations by emphasizing that SMBs don't need more AI hype. They need technology that helps. And that message appears to be resonating across the partner ecosystem. That's almost exactly what you're saying. Yeah, Rob?
Exactly. Yeah. And shout out Andy. He's a smart dude, man. He spoke at Southbound last year. A little Southbound plug there. But yeah, that's not what they need. I would almost want more quotes from not their VP of product, because it's not it buried the lead, which is resonating across the partner ecosystem. Is it well, bad? Can we get a quote from somebody that's not their VP? That's awesome as Andy is. But yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, is like, boy who cried wolf, right? Oh, AI is going to come in. It's like, what they need is tech that actually helps in whatever mechanism, not more, in a legitimate way that you can action now. We talk about like actionable insights through RevOps all the time. I don't really care. It's like having here's your Rob example today. It's like having a pen in outer space, right? Not going to work the same because of gravity. That's as much better than a pencil as it might be. Sometimes you just have to have something that works.
Yeah. And that, to your point of like, you want to hear it from other people other than the VP. Like, this is where, like, we talk about every week, like, how do we start showing up differently? Like, go to market wise, like, because differently is not things like could quietly transform your entire CRM game. Like, okay, what does that mean? Deliver quick wins and long-term strategies to ensure your CRM works for you, not against you. Pretty sure we've been hearing that for about 15 years. And like, that's where, like, I get it. It's from the old days of, oh, our target market is this, our target audience is this. We want to talk to CEOs. CEOs care about quick wins. So now I'm putting quick wins in the article, and that's how I'm presenting it. And that's just not how people are consuming, information, in my opinion, at least. So again, that's why we're here, kind of distilling and maybe translating some of this, and helping Andy Petrie with that message of the whole goal of all this. And when we can kind of align that messaging, and I think we've talked about this before, like, how can the community work closer with HubSpot? And I'm excited for, like, inbound. I know they're putting a lot more work in the inbound correspondence program. I got accepted today. I'm really excited about that.
Congrats, man. Nice birthday present.
Yes, indeed. And they're working in that, the community team and Gabby, they're working closely with the inbound team so that we will be able to correspond more interesting things, leading up to inbound. And there's going to be some work. So it's always been kind of a dream scenario where it's like, imagine if Kyle's saying the same thing as Rob, as Chris, as all these correspondents. That's when you start like hammering the message, and we get to the point of they were able to do that at scale with the inbound message, with marketing automation. How do we do it, with full platform? So we've got the developer community is also actively engaged with the Spring Spotlight 2025 announcement, several blog posts. And the link here is, of course, we need them to report on the new and improved HubSpot APIs, right? Thank them for doing that. Focus on AI implementation, of course, with early adoption stories. This is where, if you can find, there's a bunch of great case studies, like this one where some users have resolved over 50% of support tickets through automation. I've got Marketing Hub Enterprise updates receiving attention for their potential to help teams managing multiple brands or locations. Multi-account management has been on the minds of a number of people. Of course, as we go into enterprise, as we go into global, there's been a ton of updates and messaging related to supporting that. Lots of people creating additional content, lots of recaps. I think we mentioned Kyle's. I think that's next week. I can track that down. But any other thoughts on this topic, Mr. Jones?
It's just I'm spoiled by RP, so the format's hard for me to digest well. But yeah, I mean,
Tell me more about that.
What do you mean?
Like, I'm thinking you're like somebody inside the company gave a breakdown or summary of updates.
Yes, and it was amazing. Right? It's just the formatting of like, here's key things like within community updates and then an indent. So that's how all of our internal columns are and to partners. So it's like the blocks of text have now become weird for me to read. So trying to read and try to categorize things. But yeah, definitely this is kind of echoing what HubSpot has been talking about as an AI first platform. And I like as weird as this sounds, it's the, let me read it here. Practical implementation of AI throughout. Practical is the key thing there, right? Like, how do you get people trained? How much training is required? Is that the point? Is this now automated? Do they need like all of that and really reducing risk? Because anytime you introduce something to a new system, it brings risk in, right? Like we got our SOC 2 this week, which is awesome. I went through all that, got the audit. It also changes process. So it's like, as great as it is and the massive, almost uncapped, infinite ceiling and upside on AI, that's something should be, implemented or considered delicately, I think, right now, just because of how the propensity for it to change pretty quickly. If you're in Breeze and working with that now, you know that they have a banner that's going across. It's like, hey, this is going to change next week. So we have done a lot of stuff and testing an agent, but something about it is going to change literally on Tuesday. So the practical implementation and thinking through like thoughtfully, just because you can, should you deploy, I've seen the first, like, man, this was a post just to show how top of mind it was. There's the first 0-click AI powered like exclusive CRM that's out there now.
Okay.
You might have some thoughts on that. Like I've seen Operator plugged into an instance and doing stuff, which is pretty cool. But zero click, I have some very interesting thoughts on that. I'm sure
yeah, I think HubSpot's going to be there by inbound.
Right, with literally no human interaction at all.
I didn't say that. I said you said 0-click. That means I can talk to it.
That means no clicks at all.
That means I can talk to it.
Which is, I mean, that's different. That's like voice powered. So
that's point where is, we're going. That's where we're going.
The point isn't to like it. The point is standardization of definitions, right? Is like that terrifies the crap out of me, and it should. And I don't, I wonder how that would be received. I also think to say that it's 100% effective now, everybody should be like can you imagine like your CRM is dead if it's not 0-click? Like that kind of stuff is an overreaction Monday, and it's on a Friday. So that's awesome that could be possible. And if they're there by inbound, that's great. I need a little more time. Maybe I'm old school. I'm 35. A lot of this tech is new for everybody, but I'm not discounting the possibility or the big, hairy, audacious goal that 0-click is kind of where we want to be voice powered. We want you to be able to interact with it. Is that in existence today? I don't know. You would know better than I would know.
I'm trying to find the update just so I can show the picture. But definitely, like, I think it's going to be hard for any current SaaS vendor to avoid convergence on the experience we have with the LLMs right now, which is just being able to chat. And that's where I'll pull this update. Right, the HubSpot homepage. Which which looks like this. This is in private beta right now. Are you ready?
Yep, let's see it. You want me to talk to it?
Just whatever comes to mind. I mean, just for perspective here.
Yeah.
Right. We got Claude over here. Let's go. Let's see if we can go. Just new chat. Right. Like this plus this. Right. Same thing.
Yeah.
And we see like, so the LLM started with chat, right? And now they're building in these toolings. Because there's updates happening behind the scenes in HubSpot, like
being able to pick up you left off, right? Like, I think there's a typo here. So that's kind of the point, is like, as awesome, and you're exactly right, it looks like an LLM, but it one crack in the glass ruins the picture, right? So it should be, yeah, this is fantastic. I didn't know you were named Quinn, by the way, but that picture of like it.
Oh, this is just a picture. This is just a picture. I'm not I didn't get into the beta yet.
No, it is, the future is closer than we think, is what you're saying. It's like, could be in 10 seconds with some of this stuff being available to actually be real, like realized.
Because this is what, since you probably didn't see it this morning, and I can't stop showing people, right? Because these kinds of updates, what's about to happen here, are already happening in HubSpot. So there's a help desk, or maybe even a sales workspace, like daily update you can get, right? So good morning, Claude. Oh, I'm in the wrong project. That's why that didn't work, right? Again, this, just like this wouldn't work without a CRM underneath it, right? With a bunch of data. So we'll get over to the right project here, executive assistant, and we'll say good morning, Claude, there. And this is where, if this were on my phone, I could verbally say good morning, Claude, and have it respond in this way. So this week, they dropped an integration for Google Workspace. And there's a prompt, there's custom instructions behind this, of course. Like, you can't just say good morning, Claude, and it's automatically going to know to go search Google. Right. And that took some effort to build that out, to make sure we built instructions to make sure he never answers me without doing these reviews. But now here we are. It says a nice happy birthday, right? Tells me my schedule, all my shows, right? Here we are. Oh, even includes, it gets better every time I do it, dude. Like, first time I did this, it's just like, oh, you have a show. And then it says it's through StreamYard. And now it's giving me the freaking link, man. Like, and this is where all it is there's some docs in the project, and it's accessing Google, right? Over here, this is where, like, if we can do this, and it's like, hey, HubSpot, and it's just like, here's your sales calls, or here's the people that you need to reach out to. Like, if your system behind this is set up well, of course I don't want to click. Like, if I can get it done that way.
Yeah.
Right. So this is how hard it is to talk about HubSpot GTM strategy without bringing up the product.
What Claude is showing on the left. So the unstructured to structured concept is fantastic and interesting to me, because you just said this was already structured well. like you had your birthday on your calendars. At some point, I don't know if it knew that or read your birth certificate or whatever, but you had to do that. That's why it was able to tell you happy birthday. So there is this element of like pre-structure and reformatting, right, from multiple sources. It's like that's the more alluring concept, especially when you can train it to like, I mean, mine would say, you know, based on your preferences or based on what you do elsewhere anyway, Unsportsmanlike with Chris Canty is starting in 10 minutes. Do you want me to? It's becoming Tuesday. Like that's always the place in my head where I picture people wanting it to go to, is being able to just say, what do I got today? Oh, you have, and then bam, it cranks it out. It can communicate it back to you, but it has to be able to pull from everywhere and have an awareness of like your patterns, your behavior, all of that stuff. So that's the part that literally is being updated with integration capability. You just said they dropped this, Google integration now. What else can it pull from, right? Like where all is it getting access to be able to curate more so information that you need and deploy it to you or present it to you in a manner of your choosing, like your preference. Do you want it to say this out loud? Do you want it to send you a little one pager? Do you want it to send you a text or email? All of that I think is fascinating to be able to customize and curate your own interaction with the technology, right?
Right. And that's where that's why we focus. I mean, that's why we're the smart money is right now on how you help people with HubSpot, is getting that underlying structure right. Like the processes underneath. And then like that, your role as an admin shifts completely, right? Because we're also going to have to train, even though they've probably been doing zero click before because they weren't even using the CRM, they're just in their emails, right? There's going to be a discomfort, that sales reps and customer reps in general, like to get them to be okay with just speaking, to the CRM, right? And getting their job done. But when you can cross that bridge, wow, it's going to be like that. I can't wait for the statistic to go away. That is, salespeople spend less than 30% of their time selling.
Yeah.
Right. This is the kind of thing that like gets that stat out of here, and it goes up to like 80, 90% because all the admin stuff is just happening. Right.
Yes.
And so much of the iteration stuff, that's where like there's a convergence of, we also showed the GPT like image library today on the morning show. Like they've developed all the functionality and capability underneath, and now they're going towards UI, like and UX advancement, right? And that's where it's like definitely empathy for HubSpot and trying to like race against this. But there's a few functions that if they were added to Claude, it's like how far are we away from just being able to build our own personal CRM, wherever we want. That's a big part of the vibe coding and stuff like that. That's why HubSpot, it's pretty clear that they've kind of shifted gears in terms of we just have to connect everything. Like we can't build everything ourselves. We need to be okay with that. Not people aren't just going to come and just be in HubSpot because we want them to be, right? So that's what's shifting from a coaching and consulting standpoint. Like, how do we help people transition? Like, at the end of this, we should expect some pillars of SaaS to exist while a ton melts away. I mean, the HubSpot meetings recorder, right, is a great example. Like Kim Hacker, with Arrows, he's done some great reports on 22 different calling, like recording tools, like Fathom and that. And then HubSpot comes out with it. Well, if you're in the organization, you've been loving Fathom, like how do you decide to start using, HubSpot instead? Like, I think that's going to be the rest of this year, those conversations. Like, how do you melt away the rest of the stack, the rest of the cost in an effective way without change management is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, they need to move into what they're. If you know anything about Rev Partners, which hopefully you do, it's this green thing behind me, and Matt Boley, and then kind of our credo. It's that like adoption is the most important part, right? Of really any process or tool, and it takes time. It's ugly. It takes a while. So I was saying this 3 years ago, which is insane that it could be relevant again. But like PLG is not the move. PHLG, philosophy-led growth, is the move. People need to first adopt the mindset or like thought pattern that this is possible, that it's not intrusive. All of the stuff that you contend with and have really leaned into is like Nico saying, think of the smartest person you met, and this is a million times smarter than that person. Is it the philosophical, moral, ethical, like intelligent part of adoption is the first part, and it's the hardest, and it takes a while, and behavior comes after that. So exactly, yes, to your point of it's gonna any barrier to entry of putting it into the CR, that's like the burden of those leaders. And I don't envy it at all. It's like, are we moving too fast? Are people getting, like all of that stuff, I think hinges around, obviously it's popular. Obviously it's a ton of upside and potential. It's created a lot of what if kind of scenarios, which is most of what we looked at then. What if you could just not even be in the CRM or invent your own or have this like executive, AI assistant to just handle all the admin stuff? What if sellers could actually spend 80 or 90% of their time instead of 30 selling? It's a lot of what ifs. And so the adoption and like consequently or conversely, the barriers to adoption is the first thing that needs to happen.
Indeed. And we're here to do the work. So much of the GTM now is just education at the same time. I'd say more of it when you're doing it right. And that's where we'll wrap here as I show this, like the role shift for anybody helping, right, is the ability to adapt and iterate at unbelievable speeds. This is an example. Rob says, instead of me saying, come on, Rob, I've watched you like read paragraphs before when you're super interested in stuff.
Look at my eyes. I have a fake eye over here.
Oh, you want it to be easier to read? Okay, let's do that. And now, we have easier to read. Like so much of that, like we would have to go back into the tank. Like, all right, I got to redo the slides. God dang it. Maybe I'll get to that next week.
Right.
But just getting out of like iteration at unbelievable speeds.
To make my experience as a quote unquote customer better or more receptive or my preference. Yes, that's where the real magic is for sure.
Yep. So we hope that you enjoyed some spring spotlight and our breakdown here with our friend Claude. And when you're thinking about your own processes, could you iterate faster, right? Find those opportunities. Let's grow. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks so much, Rob.
Happy birthday again, buddy.
Thank you.